Hey y'all, welcome to another episode of our Women Entrepreneurs Living Child-Free. I am your host, Tiffanie Kellog, and I am super excited today to be joined by Kirstin Carey, who is joining us from Arizona, right? Arizona. So warm, dry area here in our Women's Entrepreneurs Living Child-Free. Welcome.
Thank you. I'm excited to be here.
So I do have to ask, we're kicking off every episode now with a conversation of not necessarily why are you excited to be here, because that's lots of reasons, but why are you excited for the opportunity to network and hang out with other women entrepreneurs that are choosing to live child-free?
Oh, because we're a different vibe, right? I mean, I love my women that are moms. I love my family that are moms. I love all the moms, right? But there's just a different energy, especially those of us who chose not to have children. We wanted to put our energy elsewhere. And we need kids, obviously, to keep society going, but there's just a different vibe. There's just different thought process. We don't put children first, so we're putting something else first, so the conversation is different. So I can hang with the best of the moms, right? But I don't have as much to input there either, so I kind of feel left out, and I don't love that. So I love hanging with women who chose not to have kids.
So you bring up something that was not on my list of things to talk about today, but these conversations always just go sideways like this. I was reading somewhere in a child-free group, and they were talking about, all the moms are talking, but I can't offer any opinion about having kids because I don't have kids myself. So even if the topic is conversation, and even if it's something that you might have an idea of something to add, do you kind of feel like because you're not a parent, they're not going to want to listen to you anyway?
Oh, 100%. And just like somebody who's never owned a business who tells me how to run my business, I'm always like, really? Like, I used to own restaurants, and we would have people tell us what we should be doing to market better and how we should be cooking better. And they didn't understand about commercial cooking and things like that. And I'm like, well, when you open your restaurant, you let me know how that goes, right? So I get the other side of it, but I do have clients, and I worked with many clients who have children, and I used to coach. We had a whole entire team program when I had my health program. And so I could offer advice there from a health perspective, or what our parents were going through if their children, whoever I was talking to, was in a similar place. So I felt like I had an in there as a practitioner, but as a parent, 100% no. I didn't, but we had a lot of clients who came to us for advice on how they manage whatever was going with their children for emotional stability, health stability, things like that. So I feel like I had some input, but for the most part, I'm like, I don't know what it's like to get up at 2 a.m. I know what it's like to get up for my dog at 2 a.m. if he has to go out to the bathroom, but not, my kid is sick, that kind of thing. So
Gotcha. Well, I'm super excited to have you here with us today. And y'all, I've got her bio. And as you know how this goes, sometimes I'm going to read the bio. I'm never going to read the bio all the way through. And I think we're just going to have fun with that, because I'm going to stop really quick because you are a neuroresilience specialist.
I am.
What the heck is that?
That is a great question. So I ended up in the health and wellness field because I was a business owner for many years. I was 15 years in sales and marketing and consulting, and I used to travel all over the country speaking at conferences and events. And I had really high-powered clients in Fortune 100 companies who would hire me to work with their high-level professionals to communicate and sell more effectively. And then I was way too tired. And I was in my early 30s, and I wasn't functioning right, and I was gaining a bunch of weight. And I'm a former athlete, so gaining weight for me was like, oh, I can put that weight off. I just work out a little harder or eat a little healthier. And it wasn't coming off, and I was feeling worse. And I was having adult acne, and I didn't have acne as a kid. And like all these things started going sideways. And I finally got a diagnosis for autoimmune conditions, so celiac disease, and then later Hashimoto's, which is thyroid.
Oh, wow.
And I was like, what? Like, I'm a healthy person. So I went back to school for nutrition because, I had to go figure it out on my own because I wasn't getting answers through traditional or even non-traditional or healthy medicine in a different way. So I started finding answers. And what I started really learning is that the real bonus of healing comes from the emotional wellness. How does our brain really work, and how does it impact the cells in our body? How does the emotional stress levels impact us? So I've got like a bunch of letters after my name and all the certifications and all the things. But most of the work that I did with myself to heal, and I've reversed out both autoimmune conditions. Then I started a whole company that did that for people, helping them reverse from autoimmune. I started realizing that the biggest bang for the buck, so to speak, for our clients and for myself was the emotional wellness. And the psychology and the physiological response our body has to stress. And it's not just, oh, I'm just feeling a little stressed because things are going on in my life. The body doesn't care if it's physical, emotional, or a mental stress. It sees it as stress. So it pushes you into that fight or flight. And when you can't get out of fight or flight, or you're in it in a way higher level than we were designed to be, you start to burn out. And I was burned out, and I wouldn't have been able to tell you that at the time, but I was way burned out. I was in the wrong marriage and pretending like it was all fine. I lived in an area of the country that I just didn't jive with. There was a lot of underlying emotional stress that I hadn't dealt with. It was childhood stress. And a lot of us think it's normal, I'm fine. And I had a doctor one time ask me, are you under any stress right now? And this is when I was in the beginning stages of trying to figure all this out. And I said, no more than usual. And he accepted that as a perfectly fine explanation. And I thought that was a perfectly fine explanation. And it's not that we're under any more than usual. It's to the point where our body just can't take one more moment of it. So burnout is something that most of us are way in before we realize it's a thing. So the neuropsychology of all of it and how our brains work and how it influences the physiology, that's where I started learning more and getting more certifications and more education and more learning to help my clients turn things around faster, more easily. My husband did all like the labs and we did all the sciencey stuff too. But when you understand how deep burnout goes and how long you've been in it when you didn't even know it, and that's actually why most of us get into burnout, it's a whole nother level. So I don't remember the original question, but neuropsychology, neuroresilience.
That may have been where we started. Yeah. And I love that we've got to this. And it's such an interesting thing. I remember when COVID happened and looking into some of the studies and talking about like the cortisol levels and how we're not meant to live in fight or flight mode. We're not meant to live in stress mode. It's meant to be this like quick and then you're done.
Yep.
It's not meant to be all the time. And yeah, we just push and push and push. And people all the time, I'm as stressed as normal, or I'm getting as little sleep as normal. It's interesting what we're willing to put ourselves through.
Yeah. And there's a big difference between the word normal and common. So a lot of people say, well, I'm normal. I'm like, you're common like a lot of other people. So you have reinforcement that this is okay, but it's not. And your body is telling you it's not okay. So if we're having hormone imbalance and we're dealing with weight we can't get off, and we're dealing with migraines or headaches, or we're dealing with things where, especially women who are going through some sort of shift in their hormone balance, women around 40, 45 are really getting hit with this shift, cortisol levels, thyroid, what's going on, with sex hormones. We all look at that and go, oh, well, that's normal. I'm like, it's common. It's not normal. It's not okay for your body. And then we learn to push. And I don't know how you grew up, but I grew up in an area where you walk it off, you suck it up, you white knuckle it through, and then you celebrate how strong you are. And that alone is actually a trauma unto itself.
Yeah.
We're pushing the body past where it said no more. And those of us that are former athletes or still current athletes, those of us who grew up in situations where we had imbalance in the house. So you had a parent that was an alcoholic, maybe you had parents that weren't emotionally stable themselves. You had challenges as an early child. You take that on as normal and you don't realize that there was trauma that was created typically by the time we turned 7 years old. And that's where our ability to become resilient comes in, and what our body is able to. Resilience is basically being able to get back to balance. Most of us think resilience is pushing through and sucking it up and walking it off. Yes, but if you can't get back into a balanced situation, because, well, one, you may never have known what balance was in the first place. But if you don't know how to get back to what your body considers balance, not what you've logicked your way into, but true balance, you will at some point get to a level where imbalance starts to show up, trauma starts to show up, body breakdown starts to show up. And that's why we have the average person in America is on 4 or more medications. which of course we've normalized, which is not okay.
So there's a ton of stuff here, and there's so many ways that I want to take this. And I know we have cells, y'all. Cells, we're going to talk about cells in a minute. However, you mentioned this idea of some of us are in burnout and not even realizing it. Could you give us a couple of like identifiers for us to be able to kind of quiz ourselves to say, do I feel like I'm getting into that burnout, or maybe I'm already a hard way there? And maybe one tip to help us. And then I really want to get into the cells conversation, but I feel like these are great topics for us to be talking about.
Yeah. So some of the biggest things we'll see when we were working with people in the health space too, and then even when I work with my high performing clients in the sales process, I start looking for where are they in their daily, like what is going on as a normal routine for them? Or do you already have an autoimmune condition? Do you already have a chronic issue? And a lot of us have never been diagnosed with something, but thyroid's one of the biggest red flags that there's something going on. You're hypothyroid, you've been diagnosed with Hashimoto's, you have hormone imbalance, people that have been told that they have to replace hormones or they can't function, those kinds of things. But also like littler things, like you're dealing with hair loss, you're dealing with weight gain that you don't know what to do with, or weight loss that you're like, this came out of left field. If you're tired all the time, if you're annoyed at everything. Like if your husband is just chewing a little too loud and you've plotted out his death, like you know where you're hiding the body kind of thing, that's annoyance level. That's our burnout screaming at us that we can't take one more thing, right? So if everybody feels annoying to you, if smells and sounds are just always a little too much, there's a risk of burnout, or you're already in it. Right? Skin issues, digestive issues, huge red flag. Like you've got gas, you've got bloating after you eat. If you're constipated or you have diarrhea, these are actually major red flags that the body isn't calm enough to do what it was actually designed to do, which is process food and process. And if you're not sleeping, that's the other big one too, right? Most of us need between 7 and 9 hours of sleep each night. If you are trying to function on 4 and 6 hours of sleep, especially if you're celebrating that, or if you can't sleep, that's another great sign. So those are some of the big ones.
And I feel like there's so many entrepreneurs that are probably like, check, yes. Oh, check, that's check. Me. That's me. Not even realizing that it's a thing.
No, because it's been going on for so long, you think that that's okay, or everyone else around you is saying the same thing. But anxiety and depression are at the highest levels they've ever been at, especially in the United States. And the amount of medications we're taking are actually causing other levels of burnout in the physiology of the body. So now we're leaning on something else that's actually pushing us closer to burnout. So I'm not saying stop your medication. So please don't do that. But if you are leaning on something to help mood stabilize, there's more going on underneath the surface that needs to be looked at.
Gotcha. And I know you gave us a lot of good things there. Is there any other tip that you want to give us on avoiding or reducing the burnout?
Well, the biggest one is just becoming aware and open to the fact that that is a challenge. A lot of people, again, those of us who are raised to be strong and push through, we're like, we don't have to tell anybody this stuff. We'll figure it out. We'll logic our way through it. Right? We'll suck it up. We'll do whatever it is we need to do, but we won't tell anyone, or we won't talk about it, or we'll only talk about it on a surface level. So I strongly recommend either you find a great therapist or you find someone who really, really knows what they're doing, because sometimes talk therapy, not the greatest solution for a lot of people, because they're I don't know, how do I put that? They're too smart. They get around talk therapy way too quick, and they know instinctively how to hide the underlying root challenge. So talk therapy isn't always the best, but find someone who knows somatic release healing, someone who understands how to do the neuropsychology components, someone who understands how to get into that theta state of the brain and work through the underlying issue that your conscious brain learned how to run past. But the underlying stuff that's in there in the body and in the brain, it's smart. And it's working constantly when you're sleeping, when you're awake, and it is directing your thoughts, your beliefs, your actions, your choices. And if you don't get to that level of how the body and the brain work, you're just going to skate past it.
Well, kudos to you for taking the time and the energy to really look into it, not just to accept this is it. This is how you're going to be for the rest of your very long life as you're going through this, and really getting into, hey, how do I make the most of my body and what it has for me?
Yeah. Yeah. And that's the thing, taking charge in a different way, right?
Mm.
Not hiding behind it, asking questions and learning more about who you really are and what is dying to come to the surface. And sometimes surfacing that stuff and processing feels yucky, which is why we avoid it. But on the other side is so much better. So much
Yeah.
better.
Sometimes it's likened to one of my therapists says, it's like we got to clean out the wound before it can heal, and it's not always nice and pretty, and sometimes it hurts, but that helps us move towards the healing aspect of it.
Yeah, because if you're in fight or flight, okay, so the most important thing I want people to get is when you're in that fight or flight, or you're in this burnout, even if you're on the edge of burnout and you haven't quite got there, but in it, around it, near it, the immune system is the most important part. And the immune system has two jobs. It's there to help you protect you from what's coming, and it's there to help you heal. So that's the second part. And if you can't get yourself into a space where you can let your body heal, you're just going backwards, right? So it's not just there to protect you, it's there to help you heal. And if you've got so much that you're carrying, you can't get into the healing space of the immune system's job. You're just twirling and actually losing ground.
Awesome. Well, thank you so much for sharing that. I'm going to head back to your bio now, unless there's anything else you want to. All right. And so we all have already heard some of this conversation, but I do want to get it in here because I'm excited about where we're going. So after healing for her from those two autoimmune conditions, she learned firsthand that success means nothing if burnout takes over. And so we've really kind of talked about a little bit of identifying and avoiding it. Now she helps high achievers master sales, resilience, and balance. She's got 30 plus years of experience, and she knows this. So what I think is interesting is, like, sometimes it's like, if it's not the right way, you're doing it wrong. So one of the things I like to talk about is, if you're asking for referrals and you get a no, you're doing it wrong, because you should be able to ask, and I've got the way to ask in the right way. So I'm very interested, because she shares that if selling feels hard, you're doing it wrong, and we need to change that. So let's talk a little bit about selling, please, my dear.
I love talking about selling. It's actually my first love, which I didn't realize, because I used to think I hated selling, because, especially women, a lot of us feel like we don't want to push somebody. We don't want to feel salesy. We don't want to ask for the sale because that's not a nice thing to do. The nice girl routine gets in the way. But if you really understand why you are trying to help the person you're talking to make a decision to either buy your product or not, then it changes the game. So a lot of my clients, I have them throw out the script, because it's not the script that we're working from. It's the philosophy behind what are you doing? And your job as a salesperson isn't to close them. I know, always be closing, right? ABC, always be closing. And that's nonsense. That is not your job. And if you're working for people who are screaming at you and that's what they're telling you, I highly encourage you to find a better space to be in. But the idea, especially for selling those high ticket programs, right? Those $5,000, $10,000, $15,000 programs that are 6 months or a year, you're going to be spending time with this person, helping them through whatever it is they're going through to the other side. So you want to develop a relationship with them, but I also don't think you should be on 15 calls with somebody to help them. But your job as a salesperson isn't to close them. Your job as a salesperson is to help both of you find clarity, rather around the fact that, is this the right thing for them right now? And to help them find a way to do it. So there are some people that I helped to a no very clearly, because it wasn't the right time for them or me for them to be in whatever program I was selling. But your job is to help them find clarity. Is this the right thing for me right now? And if it is, then my job is to help you now figure out how you're going to pay for it. Right? So a lot of people are like, what? That seems too easy. It should feel easy when you're doing it. I mean, there are moments you're going to be in it with them, right? And I've sold health programs that people are literally trying not to die this week. I mean, that's literally the fear, right? Is I actually could die. I've got sobbing people on calls. They are not easy calls all the time, but the process should be simple. Either this is right for you right now, or it's not. and let me hear why you're concerned about it. And let's work through those. And if that concern is bigger than the benefit that they're going to have, then you help them to a no.
So it's an interesting conversation because I feel like a lot of entrepreneurs are so, I hate to use the word, but I'm going to use it, desperate for the client, for the money. Like, how am I going to pay the rent? How am I going to put food on the table? How am I going to get gas in the car to get to my next appointment? How do they shift from, and because this is not a good mindset to be in, y'all. If you're in this mindset that it come across and nobody's going to want to do business with you anyway, that's a whole different conversation, different day. But how do we begin to shift from this is my future, and if they say no, to really being in the space? Because I'm with you. Like if I've talked to people before and they're like, convince me to buy from you. And I'm like, well, I can share testimonials and I can tell you about what I do, but I don't want to convince you to buy from me because I want you to be excited to be a part of.
Yep. And I'm loving that you're bringing this up because that's where a lot of entrepreneurs are, right? Like they're starting out or they're in a place where they're not making enough money. So one more sale a month could completely change everything. So there's an energy of desperation that starts to show up in us when we show up that way. And when we show up that way because we're worried about what's in the bank account, it's overriding our ability to connect with that person and to see whether it's the right thing or not. But a lot of the time, even if we were to convince them and take that money, what's going to happen in a large percentage of those people is either they're going to have buyer's remorse to the level where they want the money back. They're not going to show up in the best way as clients. So they're not going to get the results the way that they could have had they also been fully bought in at that point. But when they're partially bought in or they're making decisions because I have a quick action discount, and if you don't make the decision in the next 12 hours, then you're going to lose this. Those people are making decisions not from a place of where they know they're in the right place and they're going to get the healing or the change or the transformation that they want. They're making because they're afraid they're going to miss out on something. And when somebody comes in a vibration of fear, they end up not being the best client. They end up not getting what they want. They end up 3 months into a 6-month program wanting their money back. They end up grumbling about the program to other people. They don't become great referral sources. So you are setting up a longevity of issues with someone you've convinced into the program. Even if they succeed or get through the program, you bringing that vibration in. But you also, if you're bringing that vibration and you're talking to a lot of people you're not closing, I look at that and say, okay, either we're pulling in the wrong people somehow. So we want to look at what your funnel is. We want to look at what you're even saying to bring those people to the table to make a call with you or get into this conversation with you. There's something else wrong in the vibe at some level, either in language you're using, the vibration you're using when you're putting your own ads together, things like that. So that desperation, believe it or not, will thread through everything. So, I mean, I had a call with a woman yesterday who, it was funny. It was somebody I'd known through another program that I had sold. And she circled back because she saw that, you know, I'm finally stepping back into sales and I'm finally putting this sales program out. And she was checking in and I was on a conversation with her. And I'm so naturally in a conversation of curiosity with people that I was taking her through a process of sales, just curious what she's doing and how she's doing it. And we got to a point where I wasn't even in my head thinking we're in a sales call, but I energetically am in that vibe all the time with people. And she's like, okay, so do you take credit cards? And I was like, oh, I just
nice
call. And I wasn't in it from that. Like, it wasn't like it was set up on my calendar for a sales call. So if you're just curious about people, you actually should be in this energy all the time of how can I help you? And if I'm not the right person, let me hand you off to who, right? You know, and then, so you'll have people handing you cards and you were like, oh, you'll be at a party or like a baby shower or something, which I hate going to. And you end up in a conversation with one other business owner in the room, and you end up with a credit card in your hand. So it should be a naturally flowing, easy process where you're not trying to get them to do anything. You're just learning.
Nice. Now, I'm super excited that you're back in this sales space to share these tips. And I love the fact it's not like get you to sign today and come on, because y'all, that is not how it works anymore. Not at least it shouldn't be. So do me a favor. Tell me about this freebie that you've got for the people watching.
Oh,
Y'all,
yeah.
I'm super excited for you to be able to
So
check this
I just put this together. So this is fresh off the presses, so to speak. So it's the 7 biggest sales mistakes that are costing people high ticket clients, and then actually what to do to fix them. Because I see the same issues happening for our clients over and over and over. And I actually step into the sales teams for some of my clients. So, when their sales team of 7 people is saying, you can't close these people, no one has any money, everybody is broke, their husbands won't let them do it, or whatever their story is, I'm like, okay,
out.
I'll do a sales cycle with you. I'll step in and I'll see where the problems are. And out of the 40 sales, there's 7 people on the team. I have 8 or 9 of them, and there's people who have 1 or 2 or 3. There's something not right, and it's not because I have some other magic trickery and I'm not saying things to get it. It's because I'm using a more natural, connective way of doing things. So I sit down and then I go back through the sales calls of the clients and I'm like, what is it you're saying? Where are you in some of this? Like, why are they not closing? Should they have? I also look at clients who have a higher closing rate, but then they have a high return rate or they have a high cancellation rate. And then we also start looking at the percentages there. And it's not because I want to call these salespeople out and be like, you're terrible at sales. It's because I want them to be better for themselves too, because it doesn't feel good when you're taking 20 calls and enrolling 2 people. If you have 20 people showing up on your call on your calendar, you should be closing between 8 and 15 of them. Right? There should be some sort of, and if not, there's something else wrong. Right? So I put this together because these are the 7 mistakes I see most frequently in other people, and ones that I used to make myself. Absolutely. I mean, I've sold billions of dollars of things since I was 18 and started out in my first company in my college dorm room. So I understand what it's like to sell restaurants, things, somebody at a table, which most people don't think of that as selling, and also how to sell high ticket programs in health and wellness, in business, high $15,000, $20,000, $30,000 programs. And what does that look like? And where are we making the biggest mistakes? So this freebie, I want you guys to see this and understand where you can be better and more effective, not just for you and your pocket. And I'd love to see your pocket be more filled with sales enrollments, but also for your clients, that they're more successful. They have more referrals coming from them because they're so thrilled about what they got, and that they feel so good about coming on board with you and working with you or your team or your project or your product.
Nice, nice. So y'all, I have up here on the screen where you can go evolveminded.com / or whatever that thing is, 7 mistakes. So go check that out. Make sure you get it, do the mistakes. And then how can we find you online? If we are looking to connect, how can we reach out and talk to you in the minute or so that we have left?
Yeah, so evolveminded.com is the website. It's the easiest place to find me. I'm on LinkedIn. Frankly, I made a very big point to stop dealing with social media for the most part. So my clients show up on LinkedIn for the most part. So you're not going to see me dancing on TikTok. I don't really have an Instagram that people can really find, or if they do, it's going to be, one of my other companies. But I'm very direct on how I do stuff. So find me on LinkedIn or go to evolveminded.com.
Awesome. Well, Kirsten, it has been amazing getting to hear from you today, sharing with us about, the burnout, about resilience, about sales. It has been phenomenal. Y'all, these are the type of ladies that we are hanging out with on the 4th Wednesday of every month from 2:05 p.m. Eastern. We wrap up just before 4. We would love to have you join us for our next event. And you can also go to our Facebook group, which is Women Entrepreneurs Living Child Free, to check out what all we have going on in this amazing space. So, last thing that you want to leave our listeners, our viewers with before we wrap today
is that anyone can be really good at sales. Anyone. I would much rather take somebody who was excited for their product and really thrilled about what they were delivering for their clients and help their clients over the line to make that decision than somebody who's a seasoned salesperson that help bro marketing, bro sales, convince them, beat them till they say yes kind of energy. If you are excited about what it is that you do for your clients, you can absolutely be amazing at sales.
Awesome. Thank you so very much for being here. Thank y'all for watching another amazing episode with our women entrepreneurs living child free. We will see you next week. Same bat time, same